Hi guys, it's Penelope in London, and in part I help people with trauma and understanding early imprints, and I also am an evolutionary astrologer on top of my knowledge of childhood trauma and complex PTSD. So what I want to do is explain to you now the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. So you can see this in front now. I've got this picture I made yesterday, and we've got fight. You can't see it as well on this one, so I will skip forward in a minute, but I want to explain the fight is when we have the fight mode. So when we're in fight, through trauma, we will have a response, and this response is basically our imprints where we've not healed or we've not been able to integrate. So healing is a funny thing, actually, because we don't, with our all or nothing thinking, and Pete Walker says this in his book, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, with our all or none thinking, we actually set ourselves up. So the first thing we need to do is not to have a savior complex, thinking that we're going to be healed one day, because I used to think that way. And this actually sets us up for feeling a lot worse. He points out, I'm going to bring up the book in a moment, but he points out, Pete Walker, also that what we're doing is we're a number of things. Firstly, we're getting rid of the inner critic, because the inner critic will shame us if we have healthy blame and healthy anger, or if we feel like blaming somebody for the reality of what we suffered in childhood. Well, the inner critic will shame us. And also when we feel angry, and we'll also shame ourselves for that. So the inner critic, it's imperative that we begin to deal with that first and foremost. And he goes on, so the fight response would be, it's a response. And the other thing, I have to add this as well, I'm adding lots at the moment, but I would add that with trauma, them and the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, which you can see here, fight, flight, freeze, fawn. These responses are also, there's the healthy responses of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. So there's healthy fawn, healthy freeze, healthy fight, and healthy flight. It's not all or nothing again. And we'll run through these in their totality, but the fight is where we have anger outbursts, where we are controlling, it's the bully, and because narcissistic, and we can have explosive behavior. So now with this word narcissistic, we want to be very careful, because in the first 2 years of life, we all naturally have, narcissism. So the word narcissism has been overused, and it's quite rife in calling people narcissists when actually we've all got it in us. So the more aware we become, the less we're concerned about self, and then we have empathy for others. Now, a true narcissist, so I've understood or I've read, is where there is no empathy, like there is no empathy. But at the same time, we can't label people, without really knowing them. And even labeling them doesn't really help us, let's face it. So these are just terms that we can understand ourselves and others as well. So we've got fight, anger outbursts, controlling, the bully, narcissistic, and explosive. Now, I know that I've had this when I've responded if I've been triggered in my life. So I'm not totally that way, but I've been that way at times when I felt afraid, or I've, somebody's tried to control me or such like. So they work in very different ways for different people. Then we have the flight response, which is workaholic, overthinker, anxiety, panic, and OCD, difficulty sitting still, and perfectionist. So I used to have the perfectionist thing, but I've healed a lot of that now. Difficulty sitting still, I'm better at that. Anxiety, I've really improved through reading Pete Walkers' Complex PTSD book. Panic is much better as well. And OCD, we've all got a little bit of that to a point within us as well. It's, a way of creating safety, having rituals. But again, we need to look at ourselves and not compare ourselves to other people. Overthinker, naturally, I am that way. I'm a Gemini sun, Gemini moon. And I like to think, and I'm Scorpio rising in my astrology. It links in this work. If you're only listening for the PTSD part, complex PTSD part, astrology is to do with archetypes and symbology. And it's a way of describing the world around us. That's what it is. And then understanding what our feelings are and imprints and such like. Then workaholic, I've always, I've been through different stages. So again, as we grow through life, we do different things as well. Then we have the freeze response, which is difficulty with decisions, where we feel stuck, disassociation, isolating and numb. And we can go through those periods as well and not be stuck in them. And then fawn is we got people pleaser, lack of identity, no boundaries, overwhelmed and codependent. So let's go forward. So this is the book. If you've got any depression at the moment with what's going on in the world with the COVID and lockdowns, do reach out. I'm on Facebook. I've got a female group that I do on meetup.com. And I've also got a ladies group for anxiety. And for the guys, there are groups for anxiety and complex PTSD. Just Google search, or there's a couple on, other sites as well. Like I think Reddit is one somebody mentioned to me the other day. And watch YouTubes as well on this subject, on complex PTSD. But if you do need help, and you're feeling really down, then do reach out and don't sit on your own suffering depression. But Pete Walker, you can see here this link. You can go to if you go to pete-walker.com, then you'll be able to pick up on this abandonment depression to understand that and how that affects you. This is the book. Please go and get a copy because it will change your life. It's a map to figure out the complex PTSD. And it's a book that worked for me and for many people that I know also that have suffered trauma in childhood. Now, the other thing, when we feel confused or upset, this is part of my work that I do to understand and help people know that when we feel confused or upset or obsessed by another or whatever we're obsessed by, that is our unconscious trying to work towards individuation and consciousness. So when we work towards individuation and consciousness, we become whole. And becoming whole doesn't mean we stay in one. It's not like a perfectionist type of thing. It's an ongoing journey, but the suffering begins to alleviate as we understand and know ourselves better. For many people, I have seen that happen, and for myself as well. So let's come back to this again, because what I'm going to do, we're going to see what you can see the trauma responses. Fight is anger outbursts, controlling, the bully, and this can be towards the self as well. So it's not that we're doing this to other people. This can be the inner response to ourselves. And this is why the inner critic needs to be demolished. It's in the book. And I think there's a free version of it on Amazon.com, Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk. There are free versions of this book that I just showed you. So there's no reason not to have it. So the fight, anger outbursts, controlling, the bully, narcissistic and explosive behavior. So again, these things can be turned inward on self. It's really important to realize that. And then we've got the flight response, which is where we're a workaholic, overthinker, anxiety, panic, OCD, difficulty sitting still, perfectionism. And the freeze is difficulty with decisions, stuck, disassociation, isolating and numb. And the fawn is where we're people pleaser, lack of identity, no boundaries, overwhelmed and codependency. Now, the whole point is that we're to become whole. So what I'm going to do is read to you from the Pete Walker book, 13 Steps for Managing Flashbacks, which will hopefully help you over the coming days. And again, if you want help or you want me to look at your chart, you can always subscribe because I do updates on videos, and you can also book a session with me on Zoom so that you can discuss any of your issues or look at your astrology chart to see where you're heading. So 13 steps for managing flashbacks now. Number 1, you say to yourself, I am having a flashback. Flashbacks take you into a timeless part of the psyche that helps that helplessness and hopelessness and surrounded by danger, as if you were still in childhood. The feelings and sensations that you are experiencing are past memories that cannot hurt you now. So when you experience this, you've got to remember they can't hurt you now. Number 2 is remind yourself that you may feel afraid, but I am not in danger. So you say to yourself, I feel afraid, but I'm not in danger. I am safe now, here in the present. And remember, you are now in the safety of the present, far from the danger of the past. But clearly, if you are in danger, then you go deal with it. You call a friend, you do what needs to be done to remove yourself from dangerous situations or dangerous people that do exist, and reach out if you are in a situation. Number 3, own your right and need to have boundaries. Remind yourself that you do not have to allow anyone to mistreat you. You are free to leave dangerous situations and protest unfair behavior, and you are allowed to do that. Remember this. And number 4 is speak reassuringly to the inner child. The child needs to know that you love him or her unconditionally, and that he or she can come to you for comfort and protection when she feels lost or scared. So if you need help with that, again, I'm available on Zoom. So if it took me a long time to understand what that was, and to build a bond with my inner child. And mainly what we do is that we will treat the inner self the way we were treated as we were as children. So if we were abused, then that self-talk, that inner critic, it's somebody else's voice that we're projecting inwardly, interjecting into ourselves, so to speak. Number 5, deconstruct eternity thinking. In childhood, fear and abandonment felt endless. A safer future was unimaginable. Remember, this flashback will pass as it always has before. So I noticed that. And when I read this and I began to notice that the flashbacks and the anxiety were getting further and further apart. So, we can feel like we're going to die when we have a panic attack, for instance. But when I realized, and I read this book and I realized, I thought, oh, wow, okay, I'm safe. Nothing bad happened. So bit by bit, I was re-educating myself without realizing it. So this is the beautiful thing about psychoeducation. If we don't understand what's going on, then we can't really help ourselves. And when we understand what's going on, the psyche begins to develop and change, and we have new information that we can then begin to use and put into practice in our daily lives. It's not an overnight fix. It's an ongoing thing that we do for ourselves. Number 6, remind yourself you are in an adult body with adult skills and resources to protect you that you never had as a child. Feeling small and fragile is a sign of a flashback. So if you feel small and you feel fragile, know that you're probably in a flashback, and that you can soothe yourself, with loving words and asking your inner child, what do you need right now? It may be that you need to hide under the duvet. It may be that you need to verbally ventilate to a friend. It may be that you just need a few hours sleep. It may be that you're hungry. It may be that you're worried about, your finances or something. So get to the bottom of what the problem is. And again, if you need to face that, then ask a friend if they can help you face these things. If you haven't got, if you're not able to get therapy right now. Number 7, ease back into your body. Fear launches into a heady worrying or numbing and spacing out. And we can ask the body to relax, he says, and we can also, go through the body and relaxing the muscles one by one. So we can start, at the feet, and we can work the way up the body, saying, I allow my body to relax. I allow my body to be at peace. And you just go through the muscle groups, start at the feet and work all the way up to the shoulders, or do it the other way round, whatever suits you. Breathing deeply. Breathing is so important, like you can breathe in, if you go breathe in by 3 and breathe out by 5, or whatever works, that you can find stuff on YouTube as well to you breathe in and breathe out. YouTube will have videos to help you do that too. So just check out some that bring you to peace, or meditation if you like that. I prefer talking to meditation, to be honest with you personally. We're all different. Meditation doesn't work for everybody. And also when people have been through abuse, generally they can find meditation difficult because it makes them more hypersensitive. So we need to slow down. So running around like a maniac is slow down. That's something I learned to do. And find a safe place to unwind and soothe yourself, and feel the fear in your body without reacting to it. So you can feel, a sensation and say, and learn not to react to it. And I've got very good at that now as well. I used to freak out about everything in my body. Like, what's that? I had a headache. I thought I was going to die of a brain tumor. I was scaring the hell out of myself. Number 8 of this list is resist the inner critics drasticizing and catastrophizing. Use thought stopping. So we halt the endless exaggerations of danger and, wanting to control everything and to plan everything, because we cannot control the uncontrollable. Refuse to shame, hate, or abandon yourself. So refuse it. Shame, hate, or abandonment is like, no, I'm not doing that anymore to myself. And then we can channel our anger and not, get away from the self-attack by saying no, and not criticizing the self, stopping doing that too. And we can use thought substitution as well. We can work out ways to do that. Number 9, allow yourself to grieve. So flashbacks are opportunities to release old unexpressed feelings of fear, hurt, and abandonment. Validate and soothe your inner child's past experience. So how would you do that? You say, that's so horrible what they did to you, and I'm here for you now, and I'm going to protect you and love you, and nobody's going to hurt you anymore. You build that healthy relationship with your inner child. And number 10 is cultivate safe relationships and seek support. So there are safe people in this world. I know this to be true. And 11, learn to identify with the types of triggers that lead to flashbacks. So what leads you to a flashback? I know now the things, we can't control all triggers, but there are going to be triggers that we know are going to trigger us. There's going to be certain people and places that are going to trigger us, and we can cut them out of our lives. And we have to, decide for ourselves what those are. And we need to validate and heal our own wounds from abuse and past abandonment. And that's number 12. And number 13, be patient. This is the big one. This becoming whole is ongoing. This beauty here, becoming whole is ongoing. It's often one step forward and 2 steps back. So don't beat yourself up for having a flashback. You say, oh, there it goes. I'm having a flashback again. Now, let's see what's on the next slide. And this is, again, just another reminder of the same thing, of the trauma responses that we want to watch out for. So you can see these here. And if you would like one of these that I made these yesterday. And this is Pete Walker's, idea of the fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And I can, if you email me and you want one of these pictures, then I'm happy to give it to you so you can have it on your mobile phone and you can look at it when you need to remind yourself, of what's going on inside of you so that you can begin to monitor and help yourself evolve this. Okay, catch you later. Thanks for watching.